Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to introduce our speakers this morning on topics of digital transformation. There's no doubt that we live in a technology-driven world, global ecosystem, which is enabling us to reach uncharted territories and reimagine the world we live in. It takes a strong leader with vision and focused insight to deliver products and services that will empower businesses to operate and grow in this reimagined world. It takes a special someone who will be a dynamic enough leader to be tapped to take an organization as successful and recognizable as Verizon. Can you hear me now? Everyone knows that tagline. And deliver on creating an environment and a organization that can deliver on creating a superior customer experience as memorable and noteworthy as the network, the Verizon network. We have that special someone here with us this morning. Aparna Khurjekar is that leader. As president of Verizon Business Markets, she is responsible for the company's mid-market wireless and wireline offerings and Fios B2B. Her team of over 3,000 sales professionals guide Verizon's customers through their digitally transformed journeys with innovative managed solutions focused on communication, connectivity, and collaboration. She strives to be the most objective voice in the room, and she also believes in mentoring women and children and sharing their knowledge and importance of and conviction in leadership roles. To complement Aparna, we have Abhishek Shankar, President of Tech Mahindra Communications, Media, and Entertainment Americas. He's serving as our moderator. With more than 2 decades of experience leading within the technology space, Abhishek consults extensively on solving industry problems with digitalization as an enabler. His current role at Tech Mahindra involves leading the business with the objective of simplifying the digital transformation process for its customers. Please help me welcome Aparna and Abhishek.
While he does that, I'm really excited to be here. And I have to admit, I'm slightly more excited about my introduction today. As they were introducing me, my friend Mark leaned over and said, they pronounced it right. It's the first time that's happened. You see, in the past 2 decades in the US, my last name has been butchered quite a bit. My favorite has been Cookie Jar. There's also been Cracker Jack, but today it was pronounced right. So it feels like coming home, so thank you for that.
Great, great. Thanks everybody for showing up first thing in the morning. Hopefully the coffee is kicked in. Aparna, oh, she already has a label by, so she's good. Can I start with asking a quick question and
Absolutely.
Then to the audience?
You can ask any questions.
Fantastic. You know, great to see Sunil introduce the concept of Gyan and Vigyan, knowledge and science. My journey to reach this place was a choice between the escalator and the stairs. So quick question, how many of you took the escalators to come up? And how many of you took the stairs? Okay, all right.
You did too, you need to raise
I did, so, and this is the choice which we are always given with. You have technology and you have stairs, and you have a leader of technology who was right in front of me, and she took the stairs, so I followed through. And guess what? She and I reached first. There were the rest of us who actually took a few seconds more to reach that, and that's an ironic introduction, but that's really a story of leadership with which
Not to say we're competitive at all.
So Aparna, that journey was the journey over here, but what's been your technology journey like?
Thank you, thanks for that question. So I am a technologist. Over the past 2 decades, I have had the pleasure of working on cutting edge stuff, connecting people, connecting things, connecting people with things. And you know, Abhishek, my love for technology actually started in the 80s. And I'm going to be dating myself, and some of you who are bold enough to raise your hands when I say Commodore 64. Anyone remember that PC? Okay, some people are brave enough to raise their hands up. So it's the first PC, for those of you unfamiliar with it, first personal computer. It was my first as well, all of 1 megahertz of processing power in it. And I still remember my first game, ping pong, on it. And I fell in love with the technology. And fast forward today, I have grown an extension to my limb, and it's called a smartphone. And that smartphone has over 100,000 more in processing power than the PC that helped the Apollo 11 land on the moon. That's how far we've come, and it's been fascinating. Even more fascinating for me because I've had the front seat in actually being there, in learning and influencing a lot of what has happened. So I've been in some very seminal moments in my technology journey with mobile phones, a technology that has touched everybody and everything in this world. Anyone know the first real smartphone? And it's not the Apple iPhone? At the turn of the century, yes? The Razr V3, I love you. I was a part of the team that built the Razr and actually got it to commercialization. We sold 130 million of those. And fast forward to 2011, I was a part of the team that commercialized, which has got to be the fastest rollout of any technology, commercialized LTE. And not too long ago, I got the pleasure of really bringing and building 5G networks. And currently, I'm in the quest, along with my fellow team members here, to bring 5G to every nook and cranny of the US, such that folks like you all and us can dream and not just keep up with the Joneses, but build with the Jetsons. And that's really been the exciting part of my journey. And on a personal front, when I'm not loving technology, I am nagging 3 boys, a husband and 2 boys. And I have a big phobia. And the phobia is called nomophobia. Anyone heard of it? Okay. I would suggest all of you have some version of it too. It's no mobile phobia, and I am experiencing it right now because my phone is sitting there on the table, and I am feeling extremely anxious, and I'm sure all of you are also, but for the next 45 minutes, maybe you can just put it away and experience a little bit of that phobia with me.
Well, that's interesting. You know, you're the technology leader, you took the stairs. You are president of the leading mobile phone company, and you have the nomophobia. That's a great sort of combination of 2 different worlds which live together. But what's the trend which you're seeing with your customers when it comes to technology as the time has come? What's the trend today?
You know, Abhishek, we're in extremely extraordinary times, and I say that all the time. Not only have we are just about coming out of the clutches of what has got to be the worst pandemic in the world, there is a lot of social and political uncertainty. And to top it all, we are in this mode of a revolution that's happening with humans, the work from anywhere, do I even work revolution, as we call it. And what that has done, as we were hearing from Susan, is it's pulled forward a lot of the digital transformation. And we see it in Verizon, and it's good for us. We're loving it. I'm in sales now, so absolutely loving it. But honestly, what's happened is, I call it the 4 Cs. We're seeing a huge amount of leap in connectivity. About 77% of folks, businesses, have actually upgraded their connectivity in the last 12 to 18 months. If you're a part of the remaining 23, please see Dave. He's got the best connectivity solutions for you. Outside of that, this cloud. Over 60% of businesses have moved into cloud in some shape or form. Others are quickly adapting. Cybersecurity, and we just actually launched yearly we launch a DBIR report. It's a data breach report, and you know what's fascinating, unfortunately, is that phishing has increased in leaps and bounds. What's happened is, just in last year, we saw more phishing attacks in the US than all of the previous 5 years combined. That's how much it's in the increase. So cybersecurity and cybersecurity solutions are starting to take a lot of great prominence. And lastly, but not the least, it's about the collaboration solution. So when people are working from anywhere or figuring out whether they want to work or not, they need to collaborate, and there are lots of solutions that are showing up out there. And all that is great. And all that is what is pushing that digital technology and digital adoption to the forefront. But while we're doing that, and this is what we're here to talk about today, and I'm so excited to hear the other speakers, what's knocking on the door is the fourth digital revolution, the fourth revolution, and that's about phygital. It's the morphing of the physical and digital coming together, and it's being done on the backs of decentralization of data, decentralization of finance, DeFi, anyone heard that? And this is real, it's happening today, and many people call it the metaverse.
Well, interesting. There's a session later in the day about things like blockchain. So talk a little bit more about this fourth revolution for us.
Absolutely. It's real. I'll tell you why. So about a couple of months ago, my husband calls me. He's in technology. He's in fintech. And he's like, you know what? We need to invest. We need to invest in real estate right now. And it's in a real good high demand. I think it's going to grow leaps and bounds. And we could actually, if we act now, find a space next to Snoop Dogg. And I'm like, it's 12 o'clock on Friday. It's too early for him to start drinking. Not really sure what's happening here. So it happens to be a real estate parcel, which is completely virtual next to Snoop Dogg. It did get sold for $450,000. Thankfully, it wasn't us, it was someone else. But they did buy it, and hundreds of millions of dollars are getting poured into these real estate parcels, and it's a completely new concept. Well, fast forward to today, and I will tell you, I am starting to invest in art. This is not art with art gallery auctions in Sotheby's. I am investing in art galleries which are virtual. And I am working with bluecheese.crypto, getting a lot of help from crypto supporters in defend.com and other places where folks are actually coming in and helping define where it is that I should be investing. And I'm investing not in dollars, in OpenSea. And hopefully a few of these investments give me enough real dollars to buy a house, maybe next to Shah Rukh Khan tomorrow. So we'll see. But it's happening, and it's happening in real time. And I say it, and you and I were talking the other day, I say it as, instead of now scrolling, we're strolling. Look, the internet started in a way where it was very, very static, right? It was informational, one way. It moved into what we know of it today, which is a lot of social. So it's interactive, we're working with each other. And what it's moving very quickly to, very, very quickly, is a spatial internet where we are completely immersive. And that's really what the nature of the story is. And I say this to everybody, that there is an app for everything today. Any of you into ghosts, into the paranormal? Well, there are 13 apps. I looked for a friend. There are 13 apps for ghosts. The best one is a GhostCom radiation detector, not making it up. You can actually communicate with ghosts around you. So there's an app for that. Tomorrow, who knows, there may be an experience for that. So, and you know what? Lots of folks are like, oh, I don't really think this is going to go anywhere. But it's happening already. How many of you have moved from boardrooms to Zoom? How many of your kids have moved from the basketball courts to Fortnite? Right? And it's happening everywhere. How many of you have moved from neighbors to followers? So that's the beginning of this fourth revolution.
Very interesting. I'm sure my son has a point of view on this better than I do. You know, the only ghost I was having a conversation in the morning with somebody was around ghost kitchens. So I'm going to look up some apps around that. But with all of this, Aparna, how do you see 5G playing a role in enabling this fourth revolution?
Absolutely. It's really opportune that we're talking about 5G in the 50th year of the first mobile call that Martin Cooper made in 1973. So it's pretty impressive that in 50 years we are here today talking about things that are a billion times faster. We had phones with no data, the Dynatech in 1983. Now we've got, you know, the smartphones that, like I was saying, has got more processing power than what the Apollo 11 had on it. So it's been an impressive journey, and it's grown. And grown really tremendously. And companies like Verizon have been investing not in millions, but in tens of billions to keep building on it. And let me tell you why we are, and you all should be so excited about 5G. So 5G is 10 times faster than what you know today. It's 100 times more devices that you can be connecting. It's 1,000 times more traffic at 1/10 the latency. Are you impressed as yet? Okay, there's more. 10x more battery life and 1,000 times less downtime. And I'm going to break it down for you all because I'm sure none of that meant anything to you. So 10x more speed. If anybody is into Ted Lasso, while I am speaking, you could download the entire season of Ted Lasso on your phone. When you're talking about IoT and massive amount of connections that need to come in, would you be surprised when you hear that 1 million devices in 1 square kilometers can now be connected back into a central data point? And that's pretty cool, isn't it? As far as what is considered the delay, the latency, the time for a signal to go from point A to point B, we are talking about signals going from point A to point B in a millisecond. Now, human response time to stimuli, any guesses? It's around 250 milliseconds. So consider yourself, and I love this example, and it's true. So you're driving down a highway 60 miles an hour, and you have to hit the brake because something's crossing you. The human stimuli will have you drive about 33 yards further before the car comes to a halt. Now, if you take the whole progress that we are making in automated vehicles and you look at 5G and the latency of 1 milliseconds, that 33 yards would be 1 inch. Within an inch, you would be stopping the car. And that could be the matter of life and death. So that's the impressive piece that 5G is bringing. And as you start talking about metaverse, what does metaverse need? It needs the physical and digital integration. It needs immersiveness. It needs persistence. It needs a lot of synchronicity. That's exactly what 5G is going to give you. Massive amount of scale to connect and to bring everything together. And if that's not impressive enough, one of the things that 5G does is, look, not every service is made equal, and every service has a different need. Some may need more latency, some may need more speed. So we've got what's called slices. So your grandmom could be making her voice call on one slice while someone is really going off and making a really big splash with IoT, all at the same time. And we're starting to connect that into other solutions like mobile edge compute, where you can be computing massively all at the same time. Now, is that impressive enough? Yeah. So we're very excited about it. Please, again, find Dave in case you're interested in joining us and experimenting and building the next 4th generation of digital.
Aparna, there's one data point which will stick with me, and that's the 250 millisecond response, and I'll tell you why. We are in the US-India Chambers of Commerce, and somewhere in your speech you said kilometers per hour, and then within 250 milliseconds you switched over to miles per hour. So that's great, testimony of your data right here, and I'm sure everybody will pick you on the remaining part. There's an ecosystem sitting here, not just Verizon and not just the operators. Do you think, like it takes a village to create a baby or grow a baby, is there an ecosystem play over here to make 5G and the 4th revolution happen?
Such a great question. So it does take a village. And I do believe that 5G is at the at the hub, and there are lots of spokes that have to come together to create this wheel of revolution. And you all have heard this, but there are 5 things that really are going to build this next revolution. The first one is all about AI and the power of data, and being able to bring in RPA, robotic process automation, and AI ML is a big force there. The second piece is AR, VR, and what we're doing with mixed reality and how far we've come there. There's a lot to be developed there, Abhishek. So today, our field of vision as humans is about 210 degrees. AR, VRs are about 50. There's a lot of work to be done there. Then there is the whole construct of crypto and the whole construct of blockchain and Web3, and how is it that you can be decentralizing everything. And that's a very, very unique concept, right? So what has happened today is there are a lot of established platforms that are sitting on troves of data Do you know that just in the last 2 years, we've collected 90% of the data that has ever been collected in the history of mankind? That's how much data there is. And all that data is being centralized by these established platforms. What crypto chooses to do is to decentralize it. So you, Abhishek, or a business owns their data, they can find the value of data, and through smart contracts connect it back in immutable ways, in auditable ways. And that's really what blockchain and crypto is going to bring to us, and it's a huge deal. And then above and beyond that, it's about compute. And I talked a little bit about the mobile edge compute. You're going to need massive computing power right at the tip of where it is that you have this decentralized, intelligent edge working. And those 4 things in conjunction with 5G is really what you need for that wheel to start going. So everyone really needs to participate. Abhishek, what's happened is the stage is set. Now it's up to each one of us to decide how we play. Each vertical is going to get revolutionized. It's really about us to lean in. And the good news is, we were just talking about it before this conference, the stage has been set for folks to come in, irrespective of where you are, how small or big you are. We are normalizing the entire story. So no longer the GAFAs or the Verizons are the only ones who can be building. It could be the smaller and the larger players together. Pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, very interesting. And I totally echo with the ecosystem play where it needs the village. But I also sort of found very interesting the concept of centralization and decentralization. It seems in some ways technology is following society. Society was so central. There were central governments, and today see federated environments. So I guess technology has reached that stage where decentralization is the need of the hour. But how real is this? What any proof points of what you're suggesting as the 4th revolution? Tell us some real stories.
Yeah, and this is where I really love my job, and my team members love our jobs, because we are seeing the actual green shoots of this technology revolution starting to show up. Pick any vertical whatsoever. There's so much happening in each one of them. Let's take any. We want to start with healthcare maybe. So within healthcare, what's happening is definitely through COVID, you saw a lot of telemedicine and a lot of remote patient care. Now, with the power of 5G, what you are able to do, remember I said you can connect massive number of endpoints together, where you can do fine motor skill therapies remotely. You can do a lot of stuff where you are pulling in data near real time, and starting to make decisions with massive analytical powers at the core. So telemedicine, physical therapy that is done remotely is changing forever. And this is a space where we are just about entering into a lot of lab work and a lot of testing. Take the space of holographic surgical interventions, as well as learning remotely. There's a lot that's happening where you can literally take 3D images of the heart, push it out to the corners of the world for experts to check and work, and really be able to do the interventions remotely. That's happening today in labs, and it should be in a hospital near you tomorrow, and literally tomorrow. And then the other piece is just changing the world of EMT. So you have an accident somewhere on the road, you can be bringing in more into those ambulances that are sitting out there next to the patient. You can be taking data and creating a huge amount of analytics and decision making at the center and pushing that back down, so that care doesn't have to happen in the emergency rooms. It can start happening, and life-saving care can start happening right on the road, right where the individual is. And we are participating with a lot of hospitals, a lot of medical communities to start building those solutions. There's other stuff too. One that excites me a lot is around sports. So we've got, as Verizon, we've retrofitted over 80 stadiums now, and we are working with all the major leagues in the US to start building the next-gen revolution in fan base and fan viewing, as well as coaching. So we're working with the Phoenix Sun to make sure that real-time data is brought in, analytics is played on top of it, so that we can actually help each player learn how to play better, not to hurt themselves, and keep improving. We're doing that with fan bases where we're taking volumetric data and pushing that out into applications, overlaying it with real-time analytics, so a fan can be sitting anywhere and get the frontline experience. This is huge. There's a lot that's happening across the board, across so many different verticals.
Very interesting. I hope Mark Cuban is listening to this and the Dallas Cowboys can do something about it. Well, so, just to extend one more story, Sunil was talking about the fact that they want to expand the chambers into Washington, D.C., and I happened to be in meeting a politician in Washington, D.C., which most of us don't. But he did mention that one of the challenges with the supply chain is that ports are overcrowded, and that is one of the reasons why you're not getting your products on time. So we partnered with Verizon, and we've just launched a 5G solution to really automate all of the activity in the supply chain around and in around the ports. So that's an interesting real-life story of what we are doing in an ecosystem in partnership with Aparna.
And Abhishek, it's nice that you mentioned that, because one of our biggest 5G deployments, and the earliest, was in the port of Southampton in Europe, in England, where this port is one of the busiest ports out in England, and they see about 4 million visitors coming in from various cruises showing up. And they needed a solution which was being able to connect everything, all the logistics on the port, very, very cleanly and securely, and then be able to start doing analytics on crowd management, on the logistics management, automation in different ways. So we've actually retrofitted that port, and we are experimenting and building with them newer and newer solutions. It's going really well right now.
Oh, fantastic. I hope somebody is picking up ideas to have the first 5G business and the first 5G subway in Dallas, like we were speaking in the morning. So what are, Aparna, some of the ideas for the businesses over here to adopt, to really take this revolution ahead, and how to make it inclusive for not just the ports and the big fortune companies, but everybody else?
That's a really good question. So what I will tell you is, number one, just look at what you need in terms of not just adapting and keeping up with the Joneses, like I said, on digital, but setting yourself up with the Jetsons the right way. And for that, make sure you've got the right level of connectivity. And the world is changing. We were just talking to someone today, and they said, well, we had our RFP last year. And since then, we have a whole bunch of changes that have shown up in technology. So it's worth re-looking what's out there. We've got fixed wireless access that has shown up and has lit up literally the entire US. And what does that do? Within a day, you can get connectivity to any place you want at really good speeds, at low latencies, and you can up the game for your customers and for yourself. So that's number one, is just keep looking for what's happening. Things are moving really, really quickly. The other piece is just making sure it's secure. Very important. Your reputation, your company's reputation is at stake with all that's happening with the man-in-the-middle attacks, the DDoS attacks and such, and you've got to just make sure that you're bringing in the right kinds of solutions to support those. Once you've shored up those things, making sure that you are leveraging what has already been built in terms of SaaS solutions is important. I'm a firm believer it's important for us to stand on the shoulders of the giants. Don't go recreating any SaaS solution. There are plenty many out there. Use those, build up to that, and then innovate on top of it. I think that's the name of the game. And you are going to find that there is an app for that and a solution for that any time of the day. So go use that and then build on top of it. The next thing I would do, and I encourage everyone to do, and Verizon's doing it right now, is figure out how you participate in metaverse. You as a customer, you as a business, what is it that you can be bringing? I mean, there are smaller players now. There's a company called The Hundreds that does apparels. They've started pushing NFTs out there. So they've got this logo called the Atom Bomb, and they're selling those out. And anybody who's got their hands on an NFT, an Atom Bomb NFT, now gets a royalty from that company. And imagine the fan base. This is all about these fans now owning a part of the company and starting to invest in it. And you cannot find better marketing than folks who are owning the company themselves. So there are a huge amount of changes that are happening. I was talking about art galleries. Everything and anything is in virtual right now. So how are you leveraging all of that for your company is really important. And then lastly, and this is the most important piece, and you kind of touched on it, I do believe technology should be built for the sake of humanity and not the other way around. And I think it's our responsibility as all of us, as the India-US Chamber of Commerce, Verizon, and others, to start thinking about how are we using all that we have in our fingertips to really better the world. There are so many problems. The farmers in India, the land rights, the crops, and how is it that the farmers are getting paid for the crops, education in remote places, healthcare in remote places. How is it that you're bringing in digital inclusion, affordability, access, the right kind of advocacy in the right places? I think it's our jobs, all of us. You talked about decentralization. There's not one company with the cavalry to go fix this. This is all of us. And I think the job is to be dreaming big and making sure that the palette that has been made available to us with all these colors, we use it for the right reasons and for the betterment of humanity. And I think that's the key piece that I am really very, very passionate about.
Very interesting, and it is truly inclusive in nature. And I'll give you a quick story of inclusivity for the metaverse. And this is from a personal experience. Some of you might be following Anand Mahindra on social media. He's a known personality. And there was an incident in Karnataka, in India, where a person who went to buy a Mahindra Jeep in cash was not treated well. And he personally apologized for it. And he came to us and he said, what if we could create a store, an auto showroom experience on the metaverse? And that way we can capture and make India more inclusive for a variety of people who are there. And so we launched what we call as Techemverse. I was in Bangalore last week to inaugurate a physical lab for device testing, which will go to 7 billion people. So there is a lot which is going on in the metaverse world. But Aparna, I am running out of my technology questions, so I'll sort of pivot before I open it to the audience to ask questions. What is that one piece of advice which you've carried with you through your life, which you would want to convey to all the audience here?
Lots of advices I've been getting along the way, lots of mentors along the way too. But I think the one piece of advice and the one word that stands true today, and it's a call for all of you, is being audacious. And being audacious is really dreaming big, and dreaming big for the right reasons, and bringing everyone along. This is not a journey where me alone or this team alone here on the table or you alone on that table can do. All of us have to be thinking together. And one of the things that we're doing is really thinking big with 5G. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago, our CEO came to us and said, okay, so we're going to be investing billions, and it's not for the faint of heart, $52 billion in a spectrum. And we need to be dreaming about what we can be doing there. So Verizon has a Fios, it's in the Northeast, it's a fiber solution to the home. And we've crossed over 17 million homes in the last 2 decades. It's a great business that we have and a great service that we have. And he asked us, he said, okay, so if I bring this, if you have this palette, what could you do with it? And what we've done in the last year is what we did with over 2 decades of work with Fios. We've opened up tens of millions of homes with fiber, like fiber, with our acquisition of 5G bandwidth. So today we have over 130 million homes open. So 16 million, 130 million, and it's in a matter of a year. That's dreaming big. That's bringing services and solutions like never before to folks in the nooks and crannies of the US, which they typically wouldn't have had even 10 megabits of data. Now they're getting over 100 megabit, and imagine what businesses and individuals in these different rural areas can do with that. And that's what I encourage my team to do. And it starts with a lot of being inclusive and being vulnerable, because I cannot solve for those answers myself, and neither can this team. And we've got to bring the power of the shared mind together. So we were talking about my team. It's about 3,000 people. One of the things I challenge them with every day is to dream big and to bring their mind share to the table. There's no cavalry coming, we keep saying. It's us. We build, we dream big, and I encourage all of you to be doing the same thing.
Interesting. Audacious, I think that's the word. In our company, we use something called BHAG, or Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. Some of you might have heard of that, which spells like Bhag. And you have to go after audacious ideas, which is big, hairy, audacious ideas, which is Bhai. So if you're from India, you'll know Bhag Bhai means run, brother. So we will run with that audacious idea. I think it's time to take a few questions from the audience, if time permits. It's on when they take.
Hi, Aparna, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, first of all, thank you. That was fantastic to hear your ideas and your audacious goals and dreaming big. I have to say it's first fantastic to see a woman leader in a sea of men. And recently I've even heard the concept of double only. Sometimes you're the only woman, and sometimes you're the only woman of color in the room. I would love to hear from you, as you've risen in your career, what tips or advice you have for other women leaders who are also double only to rise up.
Absolutely. So as I was growing up, I started in Bell Labs, and I was the only woman, the youngest. I had just graduated, and lots of oldish white men around me, real experts in the aisles of Bell Labs. And I had to find my voice, and I wasn't really sure. I was different in many, many ways, not just because I was a woman, but because I was an implant in this country, but because I wasn't a PhD and they were, and lots of other differences. And there was one day where I realized what I needed was knowledge, and knowledge was the best equalizer for me. And it gave me the voice on the table. And I did need somebody, though, to include me, allow me to pull that chair to the table. So for me, it's a lot about paying it forward and making sure that we are inclusive. And as you rise up and you go to that higher floor on the elevator, make sure you send that elevator down for the others. There's a special place in hell for the women who don't help others. Remember that. And as I have grown above knowledge, what I have realized is, and I say this all the time, knowledge is knowing that tomato is a fruit. It is. You can look it up. When you touch your phone, not yet. When you touch your phone, it is a fruit. But wisdom is knowing that you can't put it in a fruit salad. And I think over time, what I've had to do is temper my voice with the wisdom of knowing when to speak, when to include others, and how it is that we can jointly then build something much bigger than what I could do alone. And I think that has really been what I tell every woman that I can find, be it of color or not color, as well as every individual, male or otherwise. I think that has worked for me, and I know it will work for everybody.
Hello. This is based on the important touch point you made on technologies for humanity. So in that aspect, I know that Verizon is a technology company and promoting more in terms of speed and stuff. One of the important things comes to my mind immediately is like Medicare. Medical is an area where it needs a lot of advancements in terms of technology. And there are a lot of preemptive things and proactiveness to be put in place to help the human. So what kind of investments and what kind of innovations are being done behind the scenes in Verizon Business in terms of how that can be a possibility through your labs and other things to make the human life much more easier, non-expensive, because all the technology, you talked about the speed, you talked about various things, but the thing is, the most important thing is how do we save our lives? How do we do things? Yeah. So what is that something going on? I am also an ex-employee of Verizon Business before as part of their professional services, and I have been working with the innovation labs too. So I know that a lot of good work has been done there. So is there been continuing on that? Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for that question. I do agree with you. Saving lives should be and will be one of the biggest opportunities that we continue building on with 5G and all the other core technologies that I was talking about. one of the things that we're doing is we can't solve it all. We're not doctors, but we do have the right kinds of palettes for doctors to come and build and conjure up the right kinds of solutions with us. Doctors, technologists, biotechnicians. So we've created labs. The lab in Atlanta actually is working on specifically the medical area and the medical vertical, but we've got labs across the country, and we invite folks, and if you've got one, I'd be happy to talk to you. We are inviting folks to come develop and innovate with us. We don't know what that solution is going to be, but we're happy to invest jointly to find those solutions with you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, first of all, thank you for the passionate, speech / sharing your thoughts and ideas and everything. One thing that really resonated with me was your cybersecurity thing. So I've led the practices at Accenture, Deloitte, grown up in cybersecurity. I'm glad to see Verizon is thinking about it from the business side of the house too. One of the things working with execs at the AT&T and all other places that I really figured out, and I also was talking to one of my good friends who's at Wells Fargo, the CIO there, that even though the organizations at large, like Verizon, they talk about it, but they don't really share much with other competitors theirs or in the like-minded industries. Can you share what you're doing in cybersecurity or these new solutions that you're building with cybersecurity in mind? How are you sharing and collaborating? Because one thing is to really say that, yes, this is important, but this is not just important for one, it's for everyone, right? So what is happening in the collaborative space? Because ISEX is another thing which I'm presenting in a couple of months. One of the topics I'm going to be talking about is, even though ISEX share between each other, they're not sharing amongst each other. So what's your thoughts there?
Great. Claudia, did you plan that question? So Claudia is working on making sure everyone's aware of this report that we launch every year. There's a treasure trove of data in there that we share based on what we learn. Now look, over 80% of traffic across the globe traverses through Verizon backbone in some form or the other. And because of that, we see a lot, and we are early indicators, we see early indication of things happening. And we share quite some of that through reports like the DBIR, the data breach report. And we give a lot in terms of what we have done and what the companies, big or small, could do with cybersecurity. Outside of that, we do believe that our Chief Information Officer sits on a committee with others that are learning and working closely with the government to make sure that anything that we see, we share. So I don't know specifically about Wells Fargo, but we do that for everybody else. I'll tell you, this table and my job and my quest is to take what's happening for the larger enterprises and really bringing it at the right price point and with the right kind of consultation, free consultation from us, to the mid and small size. Because these businesses, the mid and small size, are seeing more of an impact of cybersecurity and fraud crimes. 9 out of the 10 cybersecurity crimes are for money. So it is really impactful, and what our job is to make sure whatever we are learning, and we're in the top quadrant of any cybersecurity solution that you see, we are trying to bring that down in a very cost-conducive way for the mid-market as well, mid and small. So hopefully that helps, but happy to talk about anything else and connect you with the folks in Verizon who are making this their life journey.
Thank you for the talk, excellent program. I'm an engineer and a physician. Can we talk offline? Or the problem is getting access to high-level executives. Usually it's very hard to discuss ideas, and the NDAs are always embedded with, we might already be working on a solution like this.
Absolutely, so. We're happy to. We've got a really high-level executive sitting on the table. Dave, you're going to connect back with him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask you just to stay in the stage for a couple of minutes while I call, because you have to leave a little bit early right now, so I'll ask a couple of board members to come and take a picture as well. May I call GS, Ajay, and Sunil Ji, Susan, and I see Neil over there. Please come and on the stage. And while you're mentioning about this medical technology, how it can save, I'm on the hospital board for a couple of hospitals. And one of the major changes is not only how fast the ambulance come to the patient, one who is going through cardiac arrest or anything, it is the information while the person is in the ambulance to be transmitted. So by the person reaches there, they already have a treatment plan. And that's a life and death situation for them. So thank you for doing all this on 5G, where
Absolutely.
it would save lives as well. So